Welcome to the Work the System podcast, where we help entrepreneurs make more and work less using systems. And I'm your host, Josh Fonger. Today, we have a special guest. We have Rich Allen. Rich is a nationally renowned speaker whose primary mission and purpose are focused on one single objective: to help business owners engage and activate the power of their team in a way that is profitable, sustainable, and is as easy as riding a bike. All right. So, Rich, why don't you give us the backstory? How did you become an expert at getting people to activate their team?
Well, Josh, it's a pleasure to be with you today, man. Thanks for having me on the show. My story begins back when I was working with my dad in his small business. I'm from Ohio, near Cleveland. If anyone's in that neck of the woods, you'll appreciate kind of what that might have been like back in the day. I was from a fairly large family. I've got 11 brothers and sisters, so there were 12 of us. And my dad he worked constantly. He was the hardest working guy you'd ever know. Mm-hmm. But at age 36, Josh, he'd made the decision to start his own business. He thought maybe if he opened up his own business, controlled his own destiny, he could truly make something for himself. He basically had a big dream. He wanted to build a business and leave a legacy for his 12 kids. And while my dad was really good at his trade, he opened a window washing business. He was great at his trade. He had no clue how to run a business. And as a result, it was a tragedy. My dad really struggled for years and years and years. And I was right there with him, along with many of my brothers. We were the slave labor on the team. And one at a time, each of us just said, look, there's a better way to do this. And we each left. Mm-hmm. One of my brothers even left to go start his own competing window washing business with my dad because he thought he could do it better. And I got a lucky break, got a chance to go to college and went into the military for a time. But I always wondered kind of what was my dad missing. And after the military, I had a chance to work for a couple of big companies. I worked for Texas Instruments and then Pella Corporation. Had a chance to run my own business, and it was there that I kind of got my chance to play my hand at what it took to run a business, inspire the team, kind of use a team to kind of grow the business. And that's what basically got me to this point today.
Uh-huh. That's a really interesting story. And you probably don't know this about me, but one of my companies, I started several companies when I was high school and college, and one of them was window washing because I had a summer and I didn't want to work a normal job getting paid, $5 an hour or $7 an hour. So I just contacted all my friends and family and washed their windows and made a few $100 a day. And I was like, oh, so that was my first business, but I had no intentions of growing it, just to make some summer cash. Well, that's
Very
interesting.
Yeah.
So in your bio and that I was reading, you talked about, and those watching the video can see, you're into bikes. So how does this analogy of the bike fit into work and business and team?
Yeah, well, where the bike came from, Josh, was, when I had the opportunity to run a business myself, right? I'd always wanted to do it. I'd been in business for many years, but always was in a functional role in business. But I had the chance, I guess it's been now about almost 30 years ago, but I had the chance to run a small manufacturing business. And we had, it was about a $30 million business. We had about 200 employees, and we had just acquired the business, and I was given the challenge to go run it. So I got really excited to move my family to Minnesota so we could do that, right, and run the business from there. I walked into the shop, into the factory the very first day, frankly, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was absolutely scared to death. Mm-hmm. I walked around for days, Josh, just thinking, I don't have a clue how I'm going to make this business better. And I kept thinking, everybody here they're just going through the motions. They're just doing their job and then checking out, looking for the paycheck, going to spend their weekends doing whatever. Not thinking about whether the business is good or bad or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I came up with this idea. I had this idea that hits where every great idea hits you, right, in the shower. Mm-hmm. I had this idea. I jumped out of the shower. I called my admin assistant and I said, hey, schedule a meeting. I think I know what we're going to do. And so we cleared out a part of the warehouse. I brought enough room to put all 200 people in from both shifts. I brought this bike that hangs on my wall in and put it on a table at the front of the room. And when I got everyone's attention, I said, hey guys, what's this? Mm-hmm. And they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. And some said it was a bike. Others said it was stolen property. I assured them it wasn't stolen property, but I said, look, this isn't a bike. This is our business. And if we could understand how this business is like this bike, we can tune up our business and make it go really fast. Mm-hmm. So I started to explain to everybody exactly how our business was like a bike, just comparing every component of the bike to part of our business. And Josh, for the very first time, everybody in the factory could understand how a business worked. It was amazing. And they then started to tell us what was wrong with our bike. That's how it began.
So tell me more about this company. So what was the culture of the team like? I mean, you kind of mentioned that they weren't really engaged. How long had it been where the team was just kind of going through the motion? Had it been a long time like that?
It was like I said, they were doing about 30 million in revenue.
Okay.
We're not making any money. It was kind of a break-even business. Mm-hmm. The equipment was tired. The people had been there doing the same things forever. The owners weren't really very innovative. And frankly, it was in a small town and everybody was just glad to have a paycheck.
Yep.
And so they'd come in and do the same things every day. Nobody did anything new. Nobody was excited. It was, and that was just the mindset of everyone there. Good workers, don't get me wrong, great people, but just no enthusiasm.
So tell us what happens next. So they hear this analogy, they think, okay, so it's a bike's business, and they might think they're the chain or the pedals or the wheels, the brakes. And then how does that translate over the coming weeks and months into success? Like, paint more a picture.
Yeah. So what we did is that, I went through this story. Afterwards, everyone kept coming. They'd started coming up and they'd say, hey, I know where we need to get better. So we would take their ideas and then we'd just start to work on them a bit at a time. We introduced this notion called Kaizen, if you're familiar with that, but it's a kind of a rapid continuous improvement methodology. Mm-hmm. So to get them engaged in finding better ways to do the business. But Josh, here was the defining moment for us. We identified using the bike. Then we said, look, there are 5 things we want to accomplish in this business. So I gave them 5 goals. One of them was a safety goal. One was a customer service. One was around quality. One was around on-time delivery. So we just set targets in 5 areas. And I got everybody together and I said, look, guys, I'm going to set these 5 targets. And the first month that we hit all 5 targets, I'll put all of your names into a hat, into a drum, and I'll pull out a winner, and that winner will own my vehicle, will own my car.
Wow.
And they all said, they started raising their hands. They said, what kind of cars? I said it was like a 2-year-old Jeep Grand Cherokee. Uh-huh. How many miles? I told them. It's AM, FM, yeah. Air conditioning, yep. 4-wheel drive, yep. And so anyway, I said, look, I'm going to drive it until we hit all 5 of these in a single month. And so for the next 5 months, every time I'd come to the factory, uh-huh. people would come, they'd huddle around my car. They would, ask me how it was going. And I said, look, I'm still driving it. But 5 months into the deal, we hit all 5.
Oh, man.
And so we rented out the surf ballroom, which happens to be the last place that Buddy Holly played a concert before his plane went down and crashed and died. But we rented out the surf ballroom. I took the car and had it detailed. We drove the car onto the ballroom floor, invited all the workers and their families, had a big dinner for them ready. And I had a big drum on a stage. I had my wife pull out 20 names. She wasn't very happy with me, but I had her pull out 20 names, the 20 finalists. They came up on stage.
Uh-huh.
And I said, look, one of you is driving home with my vehicle. And I said, I've got some cash. I said, I'll give you $200 if you want to opt out right now. One guy took the $200. We drew down to 10, then we drew down to 5, and it ended up pulling out the last guy. The winner was a 28-year veteran on third shift, a mechanic. I signed over the car to him on the hood of the car, signed it to him. He got in, he drove it home that night.
Wow.
And Josh, I got back up on stage and I said, look, guys, I got to ride home with my wife and she's not very happy with me. It's not going to be a fun ride home. But I said, here's what I now know. I said, I now know that you can do anything you put your mind to. And I'm going to expect that you're going to make every target that we set from now on. And they did. It was amazing. And from that point on, the business really took off.
You should have given them your bike. So the car.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have gotten them there, but
for sentimental value.
The guy that drove my car around, my Jeep around, he was like a rock star because he had gotten to the boss, right?
No, that's awesome. Well, that's an amazing story. And it just shows that empowering people and giving them a goal to hit really brought some life into your business. Well, so tell me what happened afterwards. So they were all empowered. They reached this goal. They did it together. And then did the momentum continue? I mean, you said it did, but tell us how, because it seems like no, there's no big goal. So what's the point?
No, but at that point we had started, I'd say the biggest thing that we did is we took the whole idea of running a business and we demystified it.
Okay.
So using the bike, they could understand how everything fit together. And once we went through that explanation, we continued to harp on that. And then once we got them involved in helping us make it better, so we made them part of the solution, rather than in many businesses, right? It's the owner or the senior people. They go off, they huddle up, they come up with a strategy or several things they're going to do, and then they declare what the right answer is and hope everybody's going to buy into it. And we took a very different approach. We said, we're going to identify the problem, and then we're going to go find 5 or 6 people in the business, and we're going to tell them the problem and say, your job is to come up with the best way to make that at least a little bit better. And then we're just going to do that every week. And the more we did that, Josh, the more they loved it, the more they started to get engaged in it. And oh, by the way, the other thing, when you said there, about the idea of not having a real reward, one of the things we did that was critical was we introduced the idea of profit sharing. So the notion that we made to them was, and when we got there, we showed them exactly that we weren't making any money at all, that our costs equaled our revenues. And we showed them the math of how business works. And we told them, you get 20% of every revenue, of every profit dollar we make. So they knew that they made 2 dimes out of every dollar we made. It went into a pool, was distributed to them. And so we said, look, you're effectively owners, you just don't take any of the risk. And honestly, by the time we got to the end, most of them were making an additional month's pay. On a 12-month period, they'd make an additional month in profit sharing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, oftentimes, was that shocking to them? Because I think a lot of times employees of companies have no idea, and they think that the owners are really making a lot of money because they think the part costs $3 and they're selling it for $30, and they think, the owner's making a ton of money here. So were they surprised at how much profit was left over?
In the beginning or at the end?
In the beginning, were they surprised that it was break even?
Again, let me just tell you a quick story, because here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it really real for them. We manufactured doors. So we manufactured storm doors. Our average storm door sold for $120. So what we did is, in one of our meetings early on, we brought in a door. I put it at the front of the room and I said, who wants to own this door? Somebody raised their hand. They came up. I gave them $120. I said, we sell this door for $120. I said, you get to keep every bit of this that we don't have to spend on things to manufacture the door. And I said, so what do we spend on to manufacture this door? And somebody said, well, it's got glass in it. I said, yeah, give that guy $5. And okay, it's got wood in it. Give that guy $3.50. We went through this for everything. Somebody said, we scrap doors. I said, yeah, give that person $4.50. We do some rework. Yeah, give that person $3.20. And so by the time we got done, we went through everything. The guy that owned the door had 2 dimes. Mm-hmm. He had 2 dimes left. And I said, guys, you get profit sharing on those 2 dimes. And they said, yeah, but there's somebody over here in the rework and he's got $4. And the guy for scrap, he's got $2.50. I said, yeah, if we could get that back, guess what? You get a part of that.
Yep.
And so we made it real.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they said, that's crazy. That's our money. Mm-hmm. Let's get that back.
Yeah, I love it. So you've made ownership thinking very tangible to the team. Yeah, I love it. I do something very similar, just as with a $100 bill, and I just tear up the $100 bill based on ratios of expenses, and then the little tiny slivers left over at the end, I say this is profit, because they don't really understand how much is left over. But
the reality is, you're right, Josh. Most people think the owners of businesses are killing it.
Yes,
and it's because we don't share with them what the reality is. That's why I think we have to be really transparent. The more transparent we are, the more they'll come on our side and help us make it work.
Yes. Sam calls it the problem of the mysterious boss. The more mysterious you are with things, the less you're trusted, and just good to be very honest and open front. Now, are there any concerns? And I don't know if you go into this with your companies. I always do percentages so that people don't really know dollars and cents, because some kind of blows the mind of some really young employees. So would you do that? Do you actually go through the actual dollars, like we make $1 million in profit, or do you go through and do more ratios and percentages of costs?
I'm a believer, Josh, that you bear it all. Uh-huh. And so we tell actual dollars. In fact, what we would do is we would post on a weekly basis. And I have many clients who do this today, but on a weekly basis, we post up how many dollars that we sold, how many dollars of profit we made, how many dollars we put into the profit pool. Mm-hmm. That's good. And so they can absolutely see what's going on.
So along the way, I've got to believe there's some amount of financial education that you have to kind of teach them about so they understand. Because at least I've been in situations, maybe you have too, where employees say, hey, I didn't realize that the owner was making $100,000 a year. That doesn't seem right. They're never here, or whatever. Their mind can't wrap around the dollars. But it sounds like you go through a process of educating everybody so that they kind of mature in their financial awareness along the way.
I would highly recommend that. One place where we do use percentages, Josh, that makes really good sense. And I recommend every business owner do this. Even before you're making $1 of profit, draw a pie of your profit dollars and allocate what percentage of the profit is going to go to what, right? There are several categories. One would be, what are you going to give back to your community? So what's your charity contribution? Designate a percentage and mark it. What are you going to share with your team? There's another one. What are you going to use for debt repayment if you've had to have debt on the business? Mm-hmm. What are you going to how much of the profit are you going to put into expansion and growth in the business? And then lastly, how much is the owner going to take out? Typically, when people go through that, the owner ends up with a smaller than half of the pie. Mm-hmm. And then, oh, by the way, there's taxes on that. So people need to be educated that not all profit is free. Profit is taxable. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you create that, and I've had several businesses that do that, when they say, guys, we're giving 15% of our profits to charity, everybody says, man, I love that. Mm-hmm. I want to be a part of it. Who's our charity? What are we doing? Yep. And it inspires them to really help make it happen.
So how does an owner go from working in the business as an operator to doing things that an owner is supposed to do, like you're talking about right here? How do they make that transition, or do they have to kind of wear both hats for a while?
It takes a while. I mean, let's be honest, it takes a while. But honestly, as you go through the bike, right, one of the things that, I always say, what's an owner supposed to do? Well, the owner is responsible for holding on to the handlebars and steering the business. Okay, so how do you steer a business? Well, you paint a vision of the future. So you have to paint a picture of what you want the business to look like in 5 or 10 years. Because if you don't have that, no one's going to be inspired to help you make it happen. Second thing you have to do is you have to set your standards. You have to determine what's the performance level that we're going to expect and demand here for our customers. And then thirdly, we have to decide what's the mission or cause that our business is going to support. In other words, this isn't about me as the owner getting a new car, or me as the owner having a lake house or a new boat. It's about a cause, a bigger purpose, so that people can say, look, we do good work in this business so we can support this mission. But in order to do that, the business owner has to establish the frame of their bike, which is the organization structure, org structure, job responsibilities, and accountability system, so that they can move methodically out of each of these different operating roles in their business. But the only way we can move out of them is if we define what our organization structure is, what roles correspond to each of the boxes in the org chart, and then one at a time systematically get ourselves out of each one of those boxes.
Sounds like hard work.
No one said it was easy. And honestly, gosh, that's why 80% of businesses never make it to their 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
Right. Because it is hard work. And by the time folks get 4 or 5 years in and they realize, look, I'm working my tail off. I'm making less than what I made if I was working for somebody else in a corporate job. Why should I keep doing this? And they check out. When in fact, it doesn't need to be that way. Most oftentimes we're doing it because we're doing all the heavy lifting as the business owner, and we haven't engaged the power of our team. When in fact, if we can do that, they'll do all the work for us, and we can go off and enjoy the riches that we get from having a successful business. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's perfectly fine.
So let me paint, because I think your manufacturing scenario is a great example for half our audience. Let me go to the other half of the audience, which is people who have online companies. So let's say you have an online business. Let's say you're a SaaS company. You sell software as a service, and your team is distributed. You have some contractors, you have some part-timers, you have some full-timers, people overseas, and you're spread out. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, your company's growing, and you used to do the work yourself, selling the software, doing some programming. But now you're like, wow, I've got a company. I got 25 people here. What do you? How does this bike analogy play out? Like, what would you recommend someone like that in that situation doing?
That's not uncommon. In fact, that's becoming more and more the norm, where most people are not co-located. None of my team. I'm in a small office here. I've got 4 team members. None of them are officed with me. So what I have to do, and business owners that are in that situation, and I've got a couple that are in there that I work with, we've got to be more intentional about making the direct connect with our employees, our team members on a regular basis. So there's got to be this rhythm that we establish in terms of communication. There's got to be a weekly rhythm, in some cases daily, but not necessarily so much when people know what their roles and responsibilities are, but certainly a weekly rhythm. There's got to be a monthly rhythm and a quarterly rhythm. And one thing I highly recommend for people who have businesses where their employees are in various regions or various locations, I suggest that at least once a year, you bring them all together. You put it in the budget, you spend the money to put them all on a plane and bring them to a place so that they can get together. I have one company that they call it Thrive Week, and they come in for a week. They break the week out. This is a great model, a great idea. They have 7 days. They use a few of the days for education, so everybody can kind of get together and build camaraderie but learn. They have a couple of days designated to visiting customers firsthand. So while they're in, they go to any customer that's in the local area and sit face to face with them so that they're no longer doing it virtually. And the third thing they do is that they have mission work. So they find a charity for everybody to come together and serve together with. And those three things make up their week. And it builds the teamwork like never before. But they do it once a year.
Yeah, I love it. I think that I couldn't agree more. There's a book I always recommend by Patrick Lencioni called Death by Meeting. You're wanting to figure out, and I'm sure you have books you recommend too about meeting structure, but the daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual, getting those figured out. The rhythm is great. Now, but what I'm thinking in the back of my head is I'm thinking like a business owner, and I'm thinking, gosh, I only have X dollars and in profit. And I'm thinking to myself, I really don't want to get my team to, be in more meetings. I don't want to have my team, all pay for that. And how do you deal with the logical business owner who's not a visionary business owner, but they're more logical and they're counting the numbers and they're thinking, well, I could save myself $50,000 and just not do any of this stuff.
Right.
What would you say to someone like that?
I would say that they're going to save $50,000 and they're going to miss the opportunity at $500,000 because, and I'm not a big fan of needless meetings, but I will tell you this. I think we fall to the side of having fewer meetings than we need than having too many. And people that don't like meetings, it's because typically they aren't very talented or thoughtful about the meeting structure. Let's be honest. And so the meetings aren't very productive. So as a result, they say that's a waste of time. But very honestly, I'm much more of a fan of, we don't get our team together near enough. We don't get them together outside of their work roles so that they can help us think about ways to improve the business. Here's what I've found, Josh, is that most of the best ideas on making a business better don't live with the business owner. I got to tell you, I didn't know how to make this manufacturing business better. Didn't have a clue. But I knew that everybody who was doing the work had ideas. And if I could just engage them to give me their ideas and then put it into a format that we could implement them, we killed it. Our competition had no clue how we were doing it. But it was because I didn't think I was the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Humble leadership. I think that's an important thing. And sharing the burden. People want to know that their work matters, and that's a great way to do it. Well, that's great. Well, the time is going really fast, Rich. I know you've got to run. I've got to run too. So let me leave you with a few lasting questions here. First one, what's one question that I didn't ask you, but I should have asked you during this interview?
Well, here's one that you probably didn't, but I'll tell you the answer to it. And that is, what are the wheels on the bike for?
Okay.
Right. And I'll just answer it really quickly to tell you, on a bike, there are two places where the rubber meets the road. It's the front wheel and the back wheel. And on a business, there are only two places where the rubber meets the road. The front wheel of our bike represents our ability to win new customers.
Okay.
Right? The back wheel represents our ability to serve those customers. And very honestly, every bit of our attention, every bit of our revenue, our available dollars ought to be focused on one of those two functions in our business. How can we win new customers more effectively? And how can we serve those customers more fully? If we do that and dismiss all the others, right? Keith Cunningham would say, don't pimp your ride, right? He would say, spend the money on where it matters. Well, the place that it matters in business is where the rubber meets the road, and it's the two wheels of a bike.
That's great. So all the other parts of the bike support those two.
Absolutely.
Points. Good. Yeah, there's a lot of clarity there. That's great. Well, Rich, where can people find out more about you and your business and how you help companies?
Yeah, easy. It's I'm a bike guy, so my website is called Tour de Profit. So just like Tour de France, the big bike race, it's Tour de Profit, TOURDEPROFIT.com. If you go to /WTS, I put some free resources there for your listeners. You can find those there, and just you'll find everything out about me there.
Perfect. So Tour de Profit /WTS. And Rich, I really enjoyed this interview. I learned a lot. I'm taking a lot of notes and can't wait to kind of refine some of the systems with some of my clients so we can work on winning new customers more efficiently and serving them more efficiently and more scalably as well. And I want to thank everybody who's watching this, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, podcast player, wherever it is, our website. If you want to win a copy of that book right there behind me, Work the System, leave us a review and take a screenshot of that review and email it to info@workthesystem.com. Once a week, we will be pulling a name out of a hat, and you'll be winning a free copy of the book. It's not as exciting as winning a free car, but it's something, right? So you can get that. Otherwise, you can download the book for free at workthesystem.com. Otherwise, thanks again for listening. Thanks, Rich, and we'll catch you next week.